People that are getting away, the people slipping through the cracks, are the ones that aren't following the rules. Duh. Okay, so Donald Trump has had a lot of famous beefs, okay? Joe Biden, Obama, immigration as a concept, right? But he's found a new enemy, right? He's found a new villain for his rogues gallery, and that is little kids with cancer. Yep, yep. ICE is deporting children with cancer, and it looks pretty bad. It looks pretty bad if you have like a soul, but it's kind of getting swept under the rug. And I think that they know that it looks bad because they're running all their ghouls to apologize for it on the news. And now we're going to watch that and we're going to see if there's any merit to it. Maybe these kids with cancer had it coming, right? Let's see what the sentient thumb Tom Homan has to say about it.
I've said from day one that if you enter this country legally, it's a crime.
In his decades-long career as an immigration attorney, Michael Gahagan says he'd never seen a mother with U.S. citizen children deported until now.
They would give that lady the benefit of the doubt if they had U.S. citizen children and just tell her, come back next year.
That's the thing. It's like the immigration policy in the United States has always been kind of draconian. I mean, ask Obama, but it's like really devolved to like an even more extreme level. Like, back in the day, it used to be a political scandal. Like, I can't imagine like if Obama did something like this and it got out in this way that it wouldn't be instantly rectified just because just the reputational damage of harming children used to be enough to stop people. But with Trump, he's just gotten everyone riled up under his spell where any immigration is bad. So these kids had it coming. It's weird.
You know what I mean? They didn't see them as high priorities.
Friday, a mother
They're
from
not high
Baton Rouge
priorities.
was
They're not.
deported to Honduras with her 2-year-old daughter, who is a U.S. citizen. The same day, another mother was deported to Honduras with her 7- and 4-year-old. The New York Times reports both families are from Louisiana. Friday, a district court judge in Louisiana questioned the legality of ICE's decision. Reporter czar Tom Homan told a room full of reporters Monday, ICE didn't deport the children. They granted the mother's request.
No, we're keeping families together. So when a parent says, I want my 2-year-old baby to go with me, we made that happen.
That's definitely a band-aid solution. I mean, rhetorically, I can see how this would serve people like, oh, the mom was breaking the law and we didn't separate them. We told the kids that they can go with the mom in Honduras, a place they've never even been, right? But I think there's actually some discrepancies in that description as well, even though what he's saying is messed up because they also have the option of just not deporting them, right?
They weren't deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. The parents made that decision.
But according to reports from the Associated Press, the mothers were arrested during routine ICE visits, deported days later, and at minimum, they weren't given enough time to make custody arrangements.
I think it's also so funny and it gets so lost that they're really catching these people doing what they're supposed to do. This is a routine ICE meeting. Like, you know what I mean? They're deporting people at their citizenship hearings. Like like they're following the rules. I mean, the people that they're getting away, the people that are getting away, the people slipping through the cracks are the ones that aren't following the rules. Duh. That's why they have to raid nightclubs and stuff now because like the smart ones are getting away with it. You know what I mean? The people that have lost all faith in the immigration system are the ones that are successfully evading it. The people that are following the rules, they're the ones getting sent to gulags or whatever they go.
Gahagan says the laws around deportation are complicated, and there's no custody time granted to undocumented immigrants. It's one of the reasons he says up until recently, deporting mothers of U.S. citizen children isn't something ICE did often.
They were worried about the children. That's the main reason.
U.S. District Court Judge Terry Doughty from Louisiana scheduled a hearing for next month and said there is a strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process.
That alone should get everyone involved in that fired, okay? You can't deport U.S. citizens with no process. You can't deport anyone with no process. And again, it's like I can feel it just slipping through our fingers. Like, you can't just deport anybody with no U.S. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. But they're doing it. What are we going to do about it? You know what I mean? It's like a U.S. citizen, plus we're talking about a a child here, right? Like we're talking about like a baby. Like, you know what I mean? They've never even been to the country they're sending them to. Ah, man. And I'm also getting sick of all this just soft language from the judiciary, yo. It's like I need them to be a little bit more mad here. Like I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off they're doing all this stuff. Like, oh, we have reasonable suspicion. All right. Like, you need to get in front of some cameras, be like, what's going on here is not normal. So we have heard the axis of evil's take on this whole situation, but luckily, these small children have managed to wrangle up some legal representation, and now they're going to give their side of the story, and say how they feel about it.
Since returning to office this week. Protests have continued nationwide against his mass deportations and rising concerns of due process violations. On Friday, the Trump administration deported 3 U.S. citizen children to Honduras, including a 4-year-old boy who is actively receiving treatment for a rare form of stage 4 cancer.
Stage 4, so this ain't, you know what I mean? This ain't like he can just be good for a little bit, you know what I mean? It'll just take a week to get his medication back. So it's like, no, like he needs critical treatment. You know what I mean?
The boy and his 7-year-old sister, who's also a U.S. citizen, were deported along with their undocumented mother. That same day,
So dark.
another child with U.S. citizenship, a 2-year-old girl, was also sent to Honduras with her mother, who's pregnant, and her undocumented 11-year-old sibling. In that case, U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty, who's a Trump appointee, said the girl was deported, quote, with no meaningful process, unquote. The judge added, quote, I've never seen anything like it. There is just no good faith interpretation for what happened to these children.
And look, okay, so you're the anti-immigration president. Okay, weird angle to go in on, but that's fine, right? You want to enforce the immigration laws. A complete reformation of the U.S. immigration system would take decades, okay? Decades. And here's the thing, it's like Trump's taking advantage of something that is real. The immigration system in the United States is busted. We're the most powerful, most rich nation in the world, for now, not for much longer. And yet we still can't manage to like have like a competent way of kind of turning these people around. And keep in mind too, what a lot of people are losing in like this white nativism movement that's happening, that people are a part of and not even realizing it, is that we are a nation of immigrants. No one, unless you're Native American, has any stake to this land, all right? We just don't. We just don't. We took it by force. We were the ones doing the invading. Now we're making the rules. Was it for the better? I mean, America existing, I would normally say, was good for the world. But even so, like, we would owe it to the natives that we stole this land from to create a place where people in general are welcome. And now they're trying to dial that back and pretend as if, white people have always had the power to say who gets to stay and who gets to leave. And everyone's just kind of accepting it. And it's so sad because it's just turned Latin people into like a second class of citizen almost overnight. And it was like this when Trump was in office the first time, but now it's like they're wielding their power in an even more cruel way.
The Trump-appointed judge said. The 2 mothers and their children were detained last week after attending routine check-ins with Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Louisiana. Lawyers for both families say the mothers were coerced into taking their U.S. citizen children with them when they were deported. In the case of the 2-year-old girl, her father's still in the United States. A federal judge in Louisiana raised concerns about Trump officials removing her from the country against the wishes of her father. The mothers were reportedly prohibited from communicating with other family members or their lawyers after they were detained, and their relatives did not know of their whereabouts until the mothers arrived in Honduras.
That's directly contradicting what the borders are saying, because he's saying, we didn't want to separate the families, so we sent the babies with the mothers to go back to Honduras. But if it's true that they're being denied access to their family members, I doubt someone getting deported to Honduras would want their baby to come with them. All right. And I don't know what the political state in Honduras is. I'm sure it's a beautiful country full of beautiful people and stable laws, but they left there for a reason. You know what I mean? They don't have a life there. I don't foresee any world where a mother with literally any other option wouldn't just leave their kid in safe hands in the most safe nation in the world for now. You know? And again, it's like these ICE agents, they're not humanitarians. Like, you don't become an ICE agent because you just love people. You want to enforce the rules, or at the very least, you're fine with using violence to enforce laws that you yourself didn't create. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's why I can never be like a cop or something, because it's like I just really couldn't even think of like using violence to like serve a nation's interests. But I'm getting sidetracked with that.
The cases have further raised questions of the harmful impacts of Trump's anti-immigrant policies will have on mixed-status families in the U.S. The Brookings Institution Center for Migration Studies estimates nearly 5 million U.S. citizen children have at least one undocumented parent.
Yikes.
For more, we go to Gracie Willis, an attorney with the National Immigration Project representing the 2-year-old U.S. citizen.
She is rocking these bangs, yo. She's a pretty girl, or woman. She's a beautiful woman with great credentials, and she's fighting for justice, and I have a crush on her. So,
and girl who was deported from Louisiana early Friday morning. Gracie Willis, welcome to Democracy Now! Can you first describe what happened to your client, and then we'll go on to the 4-year-old boy suffering 4th-stage cancer?
That's so awful.
Yes, good morning, Amy. Thank you so much for having me. What happened is that in the early morning hours on Friday, the United States government, after having detained U.S. citizen children, flew them out of the country with no eyes on these families. We have 2 families here, as you mentioned, and there are really striking similarities between these families and what they went through. In both, there were sort of 2 stories unfolding simultaneously. There was the outside and the inside. Outside, there were lawyers, loved ones, family members who were persistently trying to find these families and get contact with them. The asks were really simple. Where are they, and can we speak with them?
And again, it's just like it's a pattern of behavior, right? Because Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is going to go down in the history books as like the first major instance of the public realizing just how messed up this new policy is. Can we talk to him? Can we access him on the phone? Can we get a video to prove that he's alive? They're unwilling to provide any of this stuff when in reality they should very much have the infrastructure to get these things done. Trump just wants to do this fast, right? He knows that he's not going to be in office for very long. It flew by the last time he was in. He's an old man who knows how much more time he has left on the clock. He's trying to speed up and kind of get these legacy plays in quickly. But to do this right would just take too much time. It would take too much time. Even if you wanted to do it the cruel way, even if you wanted to do it in a way that has no space for empathy, just logistically moving all these people, trafficking all these people is gonna be, it's gonna have its snags. So they can't afford to give you a phone call. You know what I mean? Like they probably don't even have the phones. You know how many people are in these detention facilities probably? They probably don't even have the phones. Everybody wants their phone call. And they don't care if you don't get yours, because at the end of the day, the boss's 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 boss probably just got an email that says, get those brown people out of there. You know what I mean? So that's just what they're doing.
Side, both of the mothers had the same request. Both of the mothers were trying to get in touch with anyone, a lawyer, family members, who could help them either figure out their immigration cases or help take care of their children. In both cases, ICE was speaking to both parties, telling the same lies that prevented communication between the mothers and the people who were trying to assist them outside. And this was to achieve ICE's ultimate aim, which was to send these parents and their children out of the country on a flight out of a rural airport under the cover of early morning hours without any access.
So I want to go to CBS's Face the Nation, where Trump's so-called border czar, Tom Homan, claimed there were no due.
Is it just me, or does the term czar just not hit your ear right? Like, I just don't want there to be a czar of anything in America. Like, I know technically it's just like the overseer of something, but I just don't like it. I don't like it. It sounds kind of fascist to me, even though it might not be, but that's just my opinion.
Process violations when your client, a 2-year-old U.S. citizen, was deported to Honduras with her mom.
That's so sad.
I'm not aware of a specific case, but no U.S. citizen child was deported. Deported means you got to be deported by the immigration judge. We don't deport U.S. citizens.
The mother.
I'm not aware of any cases, but that definitely didn't happen. How do you know? How do you know? And then also too, it's like the Trump administration is like, oh, like we're doing this so fast, or we're just flying them out of here. I mean, okay, like, are you even keeping records of this stuff? Like, are you even keeping records of this stuff? And you know, to put my conspiracy theory hat on, and again, you know, just in case YouTube or Twitch wants to like smack me, I'm saying I don't have the evidence on this, but in my opinion, I think it's pretty likely that people are dying in the process, and they're just keeping a lid on it for now. You know what I mean? There's no way that they're bussing all these people around. Or at the very least, if people aren't dying, then people are getting lost because they just don't care. Like they just don't give a shit like about you know, the human aspect of bussing all these people to all across the world overnight.
Mother was
With force.
deported along with the children.
The children aren't deported. The mother chose to take the children with her. Now, when you enter the country illegally, and you know you're here illegally, and you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, that's on you. That's not on this administration. If you choose to put your family in that position, that's on them. But having a U.S. citizen child after you enter this country illegally is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It doesn't make you immune from our laws.
And this is the Secretary of State, Marco.
Mind you, too, that the Trump administration is like the most lawless, probably like in the world. Like we're really like North Korea or something. It's like our leaders have no accountability whatsoever. They're just manipulating the global stock market, and no one's even threatening to put them in jail over it. So it's really rich that anybody behind a Trump seal can tell you about the law. I follow more laws than Tom Homan. Are you joking?
Rubio being questioned on NBC's Meet the Press, defending the Trump administration's decision to support U.S. citizen children.
If someone's in this country unlawfully,
What a dweeb. That's my only comment. Even his haircut. Jesus.
illegally, that person gets deported.
No bullying,
If that
no bullying.
person is with a 2-year-old child or has a 2-year-old child and says, I want to take my child with me, well, then what? You have two choices. You can say, yes, of course you can take your child, whether they're a citizen or not, because it's your child. Or you can say, yes, you can go, but your child must stay behind. And then your headlines would read, U.S. holding hostage 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old while mother deported. So the parents make that choice.
I love how he really came on a respectable. I mean, look, I'm not saying that Meet the Press is like gospel or anything. Like they're still a mainstream news media outlet, but I think it's just really grand that he can come down here to this respectable program and say, oh, you guys suck at reporting, because if I did this and you'd say that, and if I said that, then you say this. But like when Democrats are like Volodymyr Zelensky goes on to Fox News, they have to put on the kid gloves and pretend like they're not speaking to propagandists for real, like for real propagandists. So I don't know. It's like we really just need to start like being more aggressive with these people, because he's just such a smug guy. Like, look at him.
I imagine those 3 U.S. citizen children have fathers here in the United States. Yeah. They can stay with their father. That's up to their family to decide where the children go. Children go with their parents. Parents decide where their children go. Right. The U.S. deported their...
Also, by the way, he's a traitor to all Latin people across the world. Okay? Like, as the Secretary of State of the United States, he is one of the most powerful Latinx people in the whole entire world, and he's actively using that power to make life hell for people that look like him. And I don't know, there's a special place in hell for that.
Mothers who were illegally in America.
So that's the U.S. Secretary of State, Gracie Willis. The parents get to decide, he said. Can you respond to both him and Tom Homan?
Absolutely. First of all, whether or not these were technically deportations is beside the point. The point is that these children were taken without any choice by their caregivers or them out of the country by ICE, which is an immigration agency. In terms of the parents' choice, Secretary Rubio's comments are incredibly misleading and disingenuous. At no point did these parents have any choice. They were not offered a choice. What do you want for your children? They weren't offered the kind of opportunity to speak with each other and make what would have been a very difficult decision, but one that two parents are entitled to make together.
That's the other thing. It's like, dang, yo, like, so if I'm the father, it's like, do I get a say? It's like, do I get a say? I mean, these people, their partners are Americans, right? So it's like, if I had a hot Honduran wife, I mean, I guess her being hot isn't really relevant, but you get what I'm saying. I'm sure you get what I'm saying. If I have this Honduran wife, right, who's not legal for whatever reason, and I have a kid with her, I'm gonna be under the assumption that if her immigration situation gets fucked up, that I'm gonna be able to claim my kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't, like, I'm that's the assumption that I'm operating on, yo. So the fact that the lawyer is saying, yeah, they didn't get that chance, is like, yo, what are we talking about here?
About what's in the best interest of their family and what's in the best interest of their children. These mothers were told, your children will be deported with you. In our case, the government filed what was purported to be a handwritten note by our client's mother that said, I will bring my child with me. That's not a statement of wish. It's not a statement of desire, of choice. It's a statement that she was told, and she was told to write.
So at this point, what happens? I mean, it's very interesting that you have the judge, Judge Doughty, Trump appointed, who said there was no due process here.
At this point, the first thing that the families need to do is process what they've been through, the trauma they've been through, and attend to the safety and health of the family. There are safety and security concerns for some members of the family in Honduras. And so the families are making sure that they are somewhere safe. Secondly, attending to the health of the mother who's pregnant, who's in the early stages of a pregnancy, who's been through a significant trauma, ensuring that she and her unborn child are as well as possible, and attending to the health and well-being of the 4-year-old who desperately needs medication and to continue treatment for his cancer.
Gracie, I want to ask you about this 4-year-old boy. He's in he has 4th stage rare form of cancer. He is in the midst of his treatment. He is deported out of the country without medication. Can you explain his case, though you are not officially representing this U.S. citizen?
That's correct. We're not attorneys on that case, but we're working closely with the attorneys representing that family. This family was brought into detention less than 24 hours before the plane took off in the mid-morning of on Thursday. And the attorney who's working with that family was actually with them at the ICE appointment where they were checking in. The kids were ready for school. They were expecting to go to school later that day. The family was taken into custody, asked for communication with their lawyer who was outside, and were denied that. That attorney filed what's called an administrative stay of removal, which is a request for ICE to just temporarily halt any deportation in the interest of something happening. And in this case,
I think that's really not unreasonable. I think, hey, my kid has like stage 4 rare cancer and they got school in the morning. Like, can we just like get like a day or two to like figure out what we're gonna do? Like, he's like, no, get in the van, get on the plane, get out of here. I don't know. And it's so, and again, beating a dead horse, but it's so ironic. The pro-life people, the people that love the children, they love the babies. We want you to have more babies. Any opportunity they get to just abuse their power and just flex on children and using children as bargaining chips to make their enemies suffer is disgusting, yo. It's disgusting. And I don't think Trump's gonna really have a problem with this. I don't think like ICE is really gonna have a problem with this. They're getting more friction from like the Supreme Court for like the Kilmar kind of stuff. But it's still disgusting and sad, and I really hope like this story kind of wakes up some people that think they're on the good side. I don't know.